The key question is, what did the Roman Republic achieve? In Rome, the Pope's unpopular chief minister, Count Rossi, was murdered at the end of November 1848. Rioting followed, and the Pope fled from the city in turmoil to take refuge in Naples, while the government that he had left behind announced a series of reforms. First, it abolished the unpopular tax on grinding corn, provided public building work for unemployed, and proposed the holding of a constituent. The election of representatives was organized by a special council of state, whose members were chosen by a government of Rome, and the constituent met for the first time in February 1849. Among its members was Garibaldi. 4 days later, the constituent proclaimed an end to the temporal power of the Pope and the establishment of the Roman Republic. In March of 1849, Mazzini arrived in Rome and was elected as head of a triumvirate that would rule the city. In fact, though, Mazzini did most of the work and made most of the decisions himself. During the 100 days of his power, Mazzini had to deal with a difficult situation, especially as the rich had fled the city, unemployment had risen, and his enemies outside of Rome were spreading rumors that he was being wantonly cruel and burning people alive. But he governed in a fair, tolerant, and enlightened way. Some of Mazzini's accomplishments include abolishing the death penalty and the Inquisition. Taxation was reformed to aid the poor. The clerical monopoly on education was ended. A dozen new newspapers started up. He declared Catholicism to be the official religion of the new republic, as a majority of its inhabitants wanted. He also urged that Rome, Piedmont, Florence, and Venice should work together to end Austrian rule in Italy. Mazzini was described by an American observer in Rome as a man of genius, an elevated thinker, the only great Italian, in action as decisive and full of resource as Caesar. The Republic did not last long enough for the real effects of his actions to become clear, but many Romans took inspiration from these months and remembered them for a long time to come. The Pope appealed to France, Spain, and Naples to help free Rome from the enemies of our most holy religion and civil society. And an army of about 20,000 men was sent from France to destroy the Roman Republic. This they did, for although a gallant defense of the city by Garibaldi became one of the legends of Italy, the odds against him were too great, and the city fell to the French at the end of June 1849. A French garrison with the duty of safeguarding the Pope remained in Rome until 1870. Mazzini explained why the Roman Republic fought so fiercely. He said, "To the many other causes which decided us to resist, there was one closely bound up with the aim of my whole life, the foundation of a national unity. Rome was the natural center of that unity, and it was important to attract the eyes and reverence of my countrymen towards her. It was essential to redeem Rome, to place her once again at the summit, so that Italians might again learn to regard her as the temple of their common country." After the fall of the city, Mazzini then appealed to citizens by saying, "Romans, your city has become overcome by brute force, but your rights are neither lessened nor changed. By all you hold sacred, citizens, keep yourself uncontaminated. Organize peaceful demonstrations in the streets, in the theaters, in every place of meeting. Let the same cries be heard. Thousands cannot be imprisoned. Men cannot be compelled to degrade themselves." The Pope returned to Rome in the afternoon of April 12, 1850, and was cheered through the streets by the same citizens who had cheered for Mazzini, Garibaldi, and the Roman Republic a year earlier. evidence perhaps that even the return of a pope was preferable to the hardships that they had endured over the past months under French military occupation. Yet with the pope also came the return of the repressive apparatus of papal rule, the Inquisition, corruption, public floggings, and the guillotine. The Roman Republic was not alone. There was another, the Venetian Republic, that had held out courageously against a siege by the Austrian navy, in the course of which the city was heavily shelled in the early summer of 1849. A severe outbreak of disease added to the misery of starving Venetians, who were driven by their hunger and disease to surrender to the Austrians in August of 1849. Earlier in the year, Charles Albert, having apparently recovered from the horrors of his defeat at Castuso and his distress at abandoning Lombardy to the Austrians, decided in March of 1849 to re-enter the war. Exactly why he made this decision is not clear. Some historians believe he wanted revenge for his earlier defeats. Others think that it was because he had time to regroup his forces and was ready for action. He may also have believed wrongly that France would come to his aid if he re-entered the war. Charles Albert was not to get his revenge. Within a month, he was heavily defeated at the Battle of Novara. This was the last straw. A broken man, he abdicated in favor of his son, Victor Emmanuel II. In neighboring Tuscany, the Grand Duke had granted a constitution at the beginning of 1848. When news of revolution in Vienna and the dismissal of Metternich reached Tuscany, the government decided to send a small army to fight the Austrians. Workers in the cities began to agitate about pay and conditions, and middle-class radical extremists began to preach republicanism. In January of 1849, the Grand Duke could stand it no longer and left for Naples, which still possessed an absolute monarchy. In Tuscany, a revolutionary provincial government was set up and a dictator was appointed in advance of arrangements being made to proclaim a republic. Before this could be done, however, Charles Albert had been defeated at Novara. This left the Austrian army free to sweep down into Tuscany, where they crushed the revolution and restored the Grand Duke to his throne. Much the same happened in Modena and Parma, where the rulers who had fled the revolutions were also restored to their thrones by Austrian military might. In the end, the Roman Republic accomplished many things, mostly serving as an example for future generations. They had legal reforms, taxation changes, educational reforms, freedom of speech. Garibaldi becomes a myth. They attempt to form a national unity with a coalition against Austria. But in the end, you got two foreign powers that interfere, Austria in the north and the French in Rome. And until they could have other support for a unified Italy, they will continue to be fragmented states.